Well, good morning. Are we having fun?
Yes.
Good. Well, hopefully this presentation and talk will keep you excited and I won't find anybody nodding off. If that's the case, I guess I'm done in being a keynote speaker. As Amber so eloquently introduced me, my name's Melissa Luna. I go by lots of names. You can also call me Missy. Some names not so nice. Unfortunately, I answer to those too. You can tell I try to be funny. I'm not, okay? I was really impressed with some of the things that the governor said. Governor Meade said something that I've been trying to stress for years, and that is you shouldn't be looking for a job. You really should be looking for a career. And it's been fascinating because we've watched the world of career and jobs really change very quickly, especially in the last 10 years. A lot has to do with millennials. So many of the organizations I work with sometimes get frustrated because of millennials. They don't know how to communicate. I can't get them to show up on time. And we have these discussions and I say, what are the positives, the things about each generation inside each organization that are the positives? And how can you capture that from a development perspective? So the first thing we got to talk about are rules. Okay, I only have 2 rules when I present. Anybody guess what 2 rules I have? Laugh at my bad jokes. That's one. Anybody else? No takers? Nod your head. It's my indication from a nonverbal communication if you're paying attention, if I need to clarify something, or if I'm boring you silly. Okay, so the only 2 rules I have. Do you think you can do that? I'm testing you. Okay, cool. All right, so we get to chat about a few things. 9 tips to balance hormones. I'm kidding. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about future leaders. You're the future leaders from what I'm understanding, correct? Yeah. So what does that mean? Well, as I mentioned, generational differences play a part inside organizations. So, out of curiosity, when were you born? And you got to stand for me. Who here? I know, and I'm sorry if I'm embarrassing anybody, okay? I'll admit when I was born. How about that as a fair shake? Anybody born between 1946 and 1964? Yes! You would be what we would refer to as a baby boomer. Okay? So feel good. You may be the oldest in the room, but at least your title's something with baby. You would be the silent generation, but my expectations from you is that you're not going to be silent. Okay, who was born from 1965 to 1984? Okay, I stand with you too. We are what we refer to as the Generation Xers. Okay, you may sit down. Because that's about maybe a third of the room. Who was born between 1978 and 1990? You are our Generation Y. I'm not asking you why you were the generation. That's actually the terminology, Generation Y. Okay, so that's a good number in the room. Excellent. Now there's some debate on exactly when Generation X, Generation Y, and Millennials go. But from the research I've been able to find, this is the closest proximity. Okay, one last group. Who was born here from 1982 to 2004? There's a little flux between Generation Y and Millennials. Okay, so that's how come you sometimes will fall in both. If you look at the definition, you'll be able to figure out which you most closely resonate with. But you are the Millennials. Okay? You may sit down. Yeah. So what defines a generation? What defines a generation? What helps create the language around generation? Does anybody know? Technology. Yeah, absolutely. Technology is huge when it comes to generational differences, right? Who was born into blogging, social media? Which generation? Millennials, yeah. Okay. Our generation, Generation X, Generation Y, began the internet. Okay. Technology was very, very different for baby boomers. Okay. It really didn't even come into play. I mean, email didn't really come into play until what, early 80s, something like that. Maybe late 70s, but anyway, yes, technology. What else? Economics, absolutely. Yeah, economics. There's one more. Not war, not politics. Okay, I'm going to, I like the, thank you. Yeah, no, but I like that. Thank you. Parenting. Absolutely parenting. Okay, so when I do presentations and trainings, I'm a storyteller. They may not always be good stories, but I like stories because I think that it really helps people get a different perspective. So I'm going to go to parenting to start. I had this young gentleman I was working with, very, very sharp young man. He wanted to go work for the FBI. He worked very hard to get there. Does anybody know anything about the procedures and the process someone has to go through? What's it like? It is really long and grueling and difficult. One of the most difficult type of opportunities to apply for. But he did it all, and he never gave up. And guess what? Did he get the job? He got the job. Yeah, he and I both did happy dances. Okay, week later, we weren't doing happy dances. I was really, really sad, and I felt for him because he'd worked so hard. He comes to my office and he says, Melissa, do you have a minute? And I look at Tom and I'm like, you okay? And he's like, I'm not okay. So I changed my schedule, I cancel a meeting. I say, what's going on? He said, I lost my job. What? You've worked so hard. How did you lose your job? My mom called the recruiter to tell him they weren't offering me enough money. Wow. Gosh, what do you say to that? Well, he can't obviously keep his salary from information from his parents. Can he be trusted? That's the justification and why he lost the job. Okay? Mom was just trying to help. But parenting does play a role in how we move forward from a generational perspective, right? When you got two dual people working, it impacts. When you have one, when you have a single parent, all those things play an impact. Okay, so parenting, technology, economics. 3 things that define a generation. Okay, really important. 2015, May of 2015, which generation just moved above baby boomers? You can cheat and look at the slide. Millennials just moved ahead. Here's another fascinating fact. They will be, in 2026, 75% of the workforce. As future leaders, what does this mean? You better get busy. And you need to figure out ways to really be engaging from a recruitment and retention perspective. I like also what the governor's doing to bring back people to Wyoming, right? Well, if you put in the right strategies in place to recruit them, that's great. But what happens if you don't put in the right strategies to keep them? It's both, right? So you got to figure if 75% of the population in the workforce is going to be millennials, you got to figure out how are we going to keep engaging with them. Okay, that's going to be my job today. If you don't take something away from this conversation, well, it looks like I'm out of business. I hope that's not the case. Okay, but my job today is to tell you some strategic ways to truly engage and retain future leaders like yourselves. Okay, so the future. Let's chat about the future. Here's what millennials brought to the conversation. When I would have, or the other Generation X and some Generation Y, when we looked for jobs, what were you looking for? Anybody? Stability. Creativity. Benefits. Retirement. Yeah, we're looking at what am I going to make, what kind of promotional opportunities are there. I never looked for something called a career. I never looked at a position. My first job out of college, I worked for Southern Pacific Railroad. By the way, amazing transportation organization. I love the railroad. It was so complex and intriguing. It was fun. Okay, but I didn't go to the railroad because I said, this is the industry I want to work for, and I want to be a manager in the customer service department. I didn't do that. I did that because I needed a job. And it paid well, it had retirement, it had great benefits, right? But ultimately, as I'm really excited and intrigued about the experience of being a customer service manager, not so much. I would have been much better suited if I would have been in the HR department and allowed to engage and train and recruit, right? But I didn't know that at the time. The millennials have defined something for us. And every generation, this is the positive they bring. They're looking for an experience. They don't just want a job. They want to go into an organization that they feel like they can make a difference. They want to go into an organization that they can collaborate with team members. They want to go into an organization that allows some degree of flexibility. Okay, and I'll describe what that flexibility really truly looks like. They want an experience of career. It's the first time that we've really started having conversations more around career. And it's fun. Okay, it's fun for me because obviously I'm a career coach. And if people weren't discussing careers, again, I'd be out of a job. Not a good joke, was it? Okay, thanks for the little laughter at the end. Okay, so they look for experience. Anybody like Dilbert cartoons? I like Dilbert. It cracks me up. Probably because I don't crack myself up. But this really illustrates the other piece that they are looking at for. In coaching individuals and professionals, we didn't talk about organizational culture until probably about 10, maybe 12 years ago. Okay, so as Dilbert, we need to foster more of a startup culture to drive innovation so we can get to dress casual, work flex hours, feel that our work is valued, and get equity in the company. What would be the name of a culture where people work hard but don't get any of those things you just mentioned? More and more a discussion of what is an organization's culture, and is that an organization culture that really aligns with what I'm looking for. Okay, so they're looking for experience, they're looking for organizational culture. They're also beginning to ask questions around core values. What is that organization's core values, and do they align with my own? Okay, it's another component that's starting to be discussed more and more. So as a career coach, we no longer just talk about interests and what are your skills. We're now having discussions around what are your values and what are you doing to research the organizations that you're going to go work for to ensure that your values align with their values. What happens when an individual's core values don't align with the organization's core values? Tell me, louder. They're fired. Yeah, they'll get fired, absolutely, or they'll quit. Yeah, absolutely, okay? It's just how it is. My parents couldn't understand why I didn't stay with Southern Pacific Railroad. Why would you leave an organization? My mom and dad stayed at the same place almost their entire careers, okay? That's the way it was. So you're watching this revolution happen around careers. Okay, people are moving around in jobs, and these are a lot of the reasons why. The other piece that's been fun, and we've already mentioned it, so I'm not going to waste your time, is around careers. It's more than just a job. They want to feel that what they do counts and is important and excites them. And is it going to be to where I can move up in this organization? Maybe a flat move, but is it still I'm progressing? Okay, so all those things are things that the millennial generation, and to some degree the Generation Y, have really started to bring to the forefront. Okay, so how do you keep them? How do you recruit them? First thing I want you to do, no, I'm not a freak and I'm not going to do anything to you. Close your eyes. Just close your eyes. Only time I'll make you close your eyes, I promise. I want you to think back when you were 12 years old. What were the things that you loved to do? What were the things that you got home and you said, wow, I really want to go back and do that again? Wow, how did I do that? It came so easy. Have that in your thought? Now I want you to think about an organization. Think of an organization that you love to work with. How come you enjoyed working with that organization? What was the team like? What were the opportunities in that organization like? What was the leadership like? Okay, got your picture? Okay, open your eyes. Anybody? What were some of the things you really enjoyed doing when you were younger? Playing with your friends. You lucky guy. I told you I have to pay my friends. I only had one.
Well, I paid them, but I still could play with them.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations. Okay, so you are a social person and you like interacting with other people, right? What's something else that you enjoyed doing when you were younger? Was I here? Sports? Flooring? Oh, exploring. I'm old. I know, it's horrible. My kids give me a hard time about it all the time. Mom, stop asking what? Yeah. Exploring. Okay, so you're adventurous. You enjoy that challenge. Trying new things, seeing new things would be my guess, right? Okay, one more. Catching bugs. That's the first time I've ever heard that before. I had one person tell me when they were young, they wanted to be a fire truck. That's an interesting thought, but finding bugs. Okay, so again, maybe it's the challenge. Maybe it's to try and identify the diversification in bugs. You're very unique. You're welcome. Okay, now what about an organization you enjoyed working with? That's an important one. How about the leadership? Did leadership have an impact on that experience for you? How about support? Did you have somebody inside the organization that was mentorship? I love the mentorship piece. That discussion's huge right now. And the fact you guys have mentorship opportunities after this, way to go, chamber. Yeah, somebody inside the organization who's going to support you, right? How about trust? Communication. Those go back to core values, right? Okay, so those are all the things I want you to have in your mind when we move forward. So the first thing we're really going to talk about is seeing the vision. It's the very first step. You have two visions you've got to see. You got to see a vision with the organization that you're in, and you got to see a vision for yourself professionally. Okay, so part of that, and I like to use photos. I think he's funny. I forgot to mention, I love Wyoming. I have two great stories about Wyoming. One story about Wyoming, my husband and I were doing a fundraiser for my daughter's competitive softball team working a CSU game. Anybody been to a CSU Wyoming game? Yeah. They're fun and crazy. It's, in my opinion, a very healthy rivalry. Okay, we got to work the beer stands. Guess what side we got to work? Wyoming. Yeah. I got two things to say about the Wyoming fans. One, they were fun. I had more fun with the Wyoming fans than I did my own CSU colleagues. Okay? Two, yes, I know. Haley, you're probably the hair on the back of your neck stand up by me making that comment. Two, they were great tippers. Exceptionally generous. Yeah. And they too would laugh at my jokes because, I got to throw them in sometimes too. That's one story about Wyoming. Second story about Wyoming was lifting, actually. So my husband and I powerlift, and two of our people on the powerlifting team are from Cheyenne. And she is a beast. She's broken more world records than I can count. Very down-to-earth people. That's what I've noticed about people from Wyoming. Very, very down-to-earth. So let's go talk about strengths. Anybody heard of Strength Finder? I really like that particular assessment. Okay, so what the Strength Finder does is it allows people to identify those things that really get you excited. So when I had you close your eyes, I wanted you to think about those things that get you excited. Strengths really start forming, the potential of strengths start forming when you're in your teens. By the time you get as old as me and become an old fart, those are no longer just talents, those become strengths. And if you can, oops, wrong one, it's later. If you can identify activities that you're doing inside your job and inside your organizations that excite you, what happens? You're going to stay. Right? Because you're happier, you're more engaged, and you're going to have a higher retention inside that organization because you're doing activities you enjoy. What does that mean for the organization? Get stronger, saves them money, right? Because they're not having to recruit, and they're not spending as much money to try and retain you. Okay, so strengths plays a part in the future of leaders, is making sure that you're identifying both for people inside your organization, but also for yourself. Are you doing activities that excite you? Okay, so strengths. Not the best photo, but I think that he's my monster. He's my culture, organizational culture monster. Okay, so it basically says organizational culture is a living creature, and employees are the ones who feed it. Anybody hear about Appreciative Inquiry? Appreciative Inquiry is a really good book. FYI, if I have readers in the room. Learners in the room, it's a good book. There was an organization in Oklahoma. They took this Appreciative Inquiry approach, and they said, we need to define our culture. I don't want, okay, it's a huge principal team. They have 7 leaders in that firm. We don't want to be the ones defining our culture. We want our culture to be defined by our people. So they went through this Appreciative Inquiry and process, and they identified themes of why, stories that people told of why they stayed. Then they started to define their values, and it was all around their people. Guess what happened to their retention rate? When they started really pulling the people and allowed the people to drive what the organizational culture looked like. It increased. Yeah, they went from about a 79% retention to about a 92%. Okay, that's huge. And it was very empowering for their people. So when you guys think about how you want to define your organizational culture, think about who you want to involve in that process. Okay, values. Really, what is your vision for identifying values inside your organization, but also for yourself? And are there ways that from a recruitment perspective, we should be identifying strategies to make sure we're recruiting the right person? Because what happens, again, if you hire someone that doesn't necessarily match with the organization's values? They leave or are gone, right? So making sure that you figure out, are you hiring the right individual for this role? From a value perspective, okay? Do I have any questions? Kind of speeding through. No questions so far? Checking the nods. Okie dokie. I spent 13 years in Oklahoma. That's why you just heard okie dokie and you'll hear a twang. Take me out for beers and the twang really comes out. The other piece I want you to think from a visionary perspective is, are you building your skills that are going to be necessary to move the organization forward? What does the skills look like? What about the other people on your teams? Are they allowed these kind of opportunities to come to conferences and learn all kind of great things? From a skills perspective, to make sure that you're moving people forward. The other part is seeing an opportunity. Once you see the vision, then you got to look for opportunities inside the organization and for yourself to really move those components forward. So, ask yourself, is there opportunity inside the organization to do what you love? That's the first thing. If there's not an opportunity inside the organization to do what you love, is there a way you can do that outside of the organization? Because you need to be spending 85% of your day inside your strengths. So if you're not able to utilize your strengths inside the organization, what should you be doing outside the organization? Apparently looking for bugs. Right? Yeah, sure. Okay, so you have to figure out, how am I going to keep myself inside, and how am I going to keep my team members inside 85% of their strengths? You need to do a needs assessment. What are the needs of the organization? What are my needs? You know, when you're looking at, do they have gaps from a recruitment perspective? Is there something, are we missing some key components from a staffing perspective? What are the needs of the organization, but also what are your needs? So you're going to need to start assessing it, and you need to really take a look at opportunity around performance evaluations. Performance evaluations, currently, the way they stand, some organizations are changing this, but it used to be, are you going excellent, good, fair? What are your areas of improvement? Anybody ever read Jim Collins's book, Go From Good to Great? Okay, I'm a firm believer in that too. It falls back into strengths. Really, performance evaluation, are there opportunities to give people more coaching content than just an evaluation of where they need to improve? And is really checking a box saying, yeah, you're doing an excellent job, or you're not. And by the way, you only get a 2.5% increase versus a 5.5 because you didn't get all excellence. It's not necessarily going to keep people engaged. So are there opportunities in the way that you do performance evaluations to really change up how you're engaging those individuals and giving them proper feedback? Training's huge. Huge, huge, huge. And again, to some degree, we can thank all millennials for that, and all Generation X, and all Generation Y, and baby boomers. Training should always be incorporated inside the organization. So do you have an opportunity to change up how you're training your people to truly develop them? What type of trainings are being offered? Is it only hard skill, or is there some transferable skills or soft skills? So there's an accounting firm. Anybody here with an accounting firm? Okay, I have 7 accountants in my family. What happened to me? I think my parents ask that on a daily basis. So there's this accounting firm, and you get CPE credits and the hard skills. The technical side of training's huge, am I right? Okay, shoo, pressure off. Okay, so I had this accounting firm, first time it's ever happened, said, hey, Melissa, will you come do some training around strengths and communication? And I said, well, sure. Well, there's this guy sitting in the back, and I said, I noticed a lot of them were working while we're doing the training, and finally I just had to stop the training and say, look, man, I get it. You guys are billable people. If you're not working, you're not making money. But put your computers away. Let's just have some fun for a while. Well, there's a guy that was in the very far, far back, and he'd sneak out his computer every once in a while when he didn't think I was looking. And I'd say, hey, Mark, I think I know what your strengths are. You're probably high achiever, competitor, and I started naming all these things, and everybody in the group just started laughing. And I said, let me pull some numbers for you. The strengths component for accounting firms, if you get people who are really resonating and doing the things that they should be doing, it increases the bottom line for that firm. And as soon as I showed specific numbers, facts, money, dollars, he put away his computer. It was fascinating. Okay, but they don't typically do soft training. Ask me what they ask for now as part of their CP offerings.
What do they ask for now?
Oh, thank you. I was leaning in, hoping somebody would bite. They asked for more soft training. They now incorporate in their entire year of annual training, they now have at least 2 classes that deal with something around communication, how do you adapt your style based on the person you're talking with, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's really interesting to me because it's not billable hours. Okay, so they're getting the importance of training. So ask yourself, where are the opportunities with training? Mentorship. What type of mentorship program do you have inside your organization? Mentorship is becoming more and more important, and people are saying, I don't have time to mentor someone. But if you think back to when you start off, somebody had to have been there from a mentorship perspective to support you. Okay? A formalized mentorship program has a positive impact on your retention of the people inside your organization. Sometimes you have to be creative to figure out how. But it's important. Okay? So figuring out, how do we do a mentorship program? Once you figure the opportunities, you know what the vision is, now you got to put together a plan. Somebody asked me, why did you name your company Strategic Advancement? Because I think that every individual and every organization should have a plan, a strategic plan to keep you moving forward. Right? That's the advancement part. Get it? Plan words. Yeah, this is why I don't have friends. So see the plan. Once you understand your individual strengths and your people start understanding their individual strengths, what happens when you begin to create complementary partnerships? So you get one person's strength with another person's strength and they're weaving together. It's collaborative. Yeah. Great story, because I told you I'm a storyteller. My old boss at the College of Business, her name was Susan Athey. She was an associate dean. you couldn't have two more different personalities. And I went into her office and she said, Melissa, I don't like people dropping in. Okay, Susan, I get it. I like email. And the emails need to be short and concise. Okie dokie. So from then on out, that's how I communicated. She and I did great. Except when I walked into her office, because I was frustrated with a bunch of Excel spreadsheets that had to be looked at, and I didn't know what I was doing. Because remember, again, I have 7 accountants, and I'm not one. And I went in her office, and I said, I know you don't like it when I drop in, but I'm really frustrated. She's like, me too. And I said, what are you frustrated with? She's like, I got to go to this networking event, and I hate to network. And I said, ding, ding, light went on. I'll make you a deal. I know you like data. And you know I like networking. How about this? Why don't I give you these Excel spreadsheets? You help me figure out the numbers, and I'll go to your networking event. And she said, it's a deal, Melissa. Okay, so what did we do? We collaborated. We created a complementary partnership. She was happier, and I was happier. Right? So inside your organization, that's some of the things you need to be thinking about. How can we create, as part of the plan, complementary partnerships? Collaboration. Collaboration is becoming more and more important in the organization. Have you heard about the alterations to office space based on generational needs? The best organization I've ever seen embraced it completely. Okay, the people that would be classified as baby boomers and Generation X, they'd earned their spot in the office. They'd earned their desk. They'd earned the corner office. They want their walls. Do millennials want the corner office and the walls? What? Excuse me. I almost burped over the microphone. That would have been totally rude. What do millennials want? Yeah, connections. They want to be talking and collaborating. They want huddle rooms. They want space in that office where they can integrate with each other. Okay? They prefer to work from coffee shops, be around people. Okay? That's the flexibility that people are misinterpreting, in my opinion. Okay, it's just my opinion, but I think that's why there's a little bit of misinterpretation. Well, this company has redesigned their office. They have the corner office. They have the walls, but then they have natural, transparent light. The lighting even changed. They have these colorful huddle rooms. They've got walls that people can collaborate and write on. I mean, they addressed every millennial generational desire from a collaborative space. And the other generations can use that space, and they do use that space. But it gives them a place to go that feels like home, or what it felt like when they were in college. Okay, so but collaboration needs to be incorporated inside the organization's environment. If you notice from this photo, training isn't just about training. I've got some banks in here, right? So, Bank of Colorado, they've always been very kind to me. And they humor me too, and they say, hey, why don't you come back and you can do more training for us? And I say, cool, because it's job security when that happens. The people that were in the trainings kept asking me these questions around Myers-Briggs and communication and leadership considerations and strengths, and they said, Melissa, this is great, but I'm going to forget all this stuff. I almost used crap, and I'm being videotaped. Oops, said it anyway. So they, what does this mean for me? So I went back to the leadership and I say, hey, they asked some interesting questions. I think I know what they're looking for. They want a leadership profile, an individual leadership profile developed for them that captures all this information they can utilize from a performance evaluation perspective with their supervisors and managers. And they said, well, what does this mean? I said, it means more cost. And they said, okay. And I said, and I think it would help if you would allow me to do a coaching session. And then all of a sudden, this photo really resonated with me. What was the most beneficial component of that training program? We had the trainings, 5 of them. There was the leadership profile for each individual, and then there was a coaching session. What was the highest ranked? The coaching session. Absolutely. Okay? 90% of the people in that room were millennials. That's also from a mentorship perspective. They're looking for that. They're not just looking for a performance evaluation with a bunch of boxes. I don't want a performance evaluation with a bunch of boxes. I want to be coached. I want to say, yeah, these are the areas you need to improve, but let's talk about the things you did really well and how to even do better. So that coaching session really resonated with this. Coaching was not incorporated inside organizational training. Okay, it's kind of new. Okay, there's only one accounting firm I've even seen out there, for those that are still accounting firms. They have an actual career coach inside the organization. Career coaching, from an external perspective, there's value. Honeywell hires external coaches to come in. Is it safer to talk to a coach that's outside the organization? Yeah. So it allows people to really break down those barriers and concerns that they have from a communication perspective. Okay, so think of that from a planning perspective. Are there some form in the training that also involves a coaching component? Okay, so not just take the takeaways, but how can we continue to have these people learn these concepts? Having a career plan. Every individual inside an organization should have a career plan. Education. If I was ever to win $1 billion, you know what one thing I would do? I would help develop career plans for kids in junior high and high school. I had a 54-year-old woman. She reached out on LinkedIn. She said, Melissa, I think I need help. I really don't like what I'm doing, and I'm 54 years old. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, well, we might be in trouble. Do you color your hair? Please tell me yes. I'm just kidding, guys. So we started talking, and she said, where were you when I was in high school? And I don't know. I've got to think about dates here. I'm just kidding. But it's true. Everybody should have a career plan. You got to know where you're going in life, right? You should at least be able to know what you're going in life. And those things should incorporate those things that you're interested in, and your skills, and your value base, and the type of organization you're seeking for. That's the plan. Okay, so having a career plan inside the organization is important, and to help your people create career plans. You are the future leaders. You have the opportunity to start creating these systems in place to really keep people engaged. How exciting is that? It's also called job security. They're getting worse, aren't they? This is what, from a planning perspective around organizational culture, you've got to ask yourself, what are our shared values? What kind of staffing do we need from a recruitment perspective? What are our strategies in place to make sure we continue to grow? What are the systems in place that we need? Some of what we've talked about. The structure. Do we have an informal structure? Do we have a formal structure? There's a difference. Okay? OtterBox. Anybody not hear of OtterBox? I'm checking the nods to make sure you're keeping with me and not asleep. Everybody's heard of OtterBox, right? Okay. Anybody know the kind of culture they have? What's that? They order Starbucks every morning? Wow, I need to be an Otter Cares person. Wow. Starbucks for everybody. Holy moly, that's a lot of cashola. Talk about giving back to their people. They're known.
They use the bossless workplace. Is that what it's called?
Oh, what's that?
Is it called the bossless workplace?
The bossless workplace, yeah. They don't actually have an HR department. They have an Otter Relations department. So when they began OtterBox, it's a neat company, okay? But they're entrepreneurials, okay? Entrepreneurials are ideation people. They like ideas, right? And the two founders of OtterBox, really high ideation, but they didn't want structure. Okay, that's why when they were even envisioning HR, they called Otter Relations, because they didn't want the policies and procedures in place, because that was structure. Did OtterBox grow? A big time grow, because you got two highly entrepreneurial people who see opportunity. But what was not in place? The structure and the plan. So they, for the first time ever, had retention issues with their people. They were recruiting people, but they were losing people at the same time because there wasn't that structure in place. They realigned everything. They gave people an opportunity to take a severance package, not because they were hurting, but because they knew that they didn't have the right people inside that organization. And they need to make sure they have the right people. Why? Yeah, they want to make the culture fit. So they gave people an option out. Some took it, some didn't. Okay, that's an example of when an organization grows really fast. Sometimes you have a hard time keeping control of your organizational culture. Just happens. But you have to have strategy. That's got to be a part of it. Okay, performance evaluations need to be more than a checkbox. It needs to be coaching opportunities. You need to have discussions around career. It needs to happen more than a year. You want to have discussions about where people want to be and what they want to do. Because if you can really allow them an opportunity to do what they want to do from a strength perspective, they're going to stay. And they're going to say better things about your organization. And guess what just happened to your marketing budget? It goes down a bit because you got people inside the organization saying good things. Okay, so performance evaluations need to be more than just a box with a check mark. Here's the philosophy. Employee engagement. Happier employers are more effective. Okay, the more engaged the person is, there's a higher satisfaction rate. It feeds into the need for coaching and training. Adding coaching to the initiative actually increases the focus in employee learning up to 60% more. That's what we found in the coaching sessions with Bank of Colorado. People retained the information, they understood more, and then they knew how to communicate it back to their managers. Okay, so it empowered them with this knowledge. On top of that, it goes to improved productivity and retention. So companies with engaged employees have 15% lower turnover rate. 95% of employers believe training can improve retention. This is why I'm sharing this with you. Because at the end of the day, if you create a truly effective talent development program and you are a part of that, people will come to you. You won't have to market those opportunities. People will be banging on your door. That's what happened to OtterBox. OtterBox didn't have to really spend that much time recruiting because people were knocking on their door saying, hey, we want to come work for you, especially if I could go down that slide. Okay, so if you can create and realign your talent development programming, this happens. Okay, so some additional food for thought. Online presence. I am in a room with future leaders, current leaders, all the above. Your online presence is super important from a branding perspective. So even from an organizational perspective, the online presence decides your brand and decides if people want to buy what you have or work with you or collaborate with you. So having a really strong online presence is super important. In particular, LinkedIn. Okay, now I get to do a quick little LinkedIn spiel. Anybody know what percentage of recruiters are using LinkedIn as their primary source for recruitment? 80, 93%, darn. That's a different one. But I like your thinking. You're now learning you can cheat by looking at the slides. 95% of recruiters from the Fortune 500 companies are now using LinkedIn as one of their primary sources. And it's smart. Okay? It is a professional networking site. LinkedIn will close your account down, or you can report people as spam if they're posting content that's not of professional nature. They just went up to 400 million users on LinkedIn. That's a huge network, right? Yeah, it's pretty dynamic. It also increases your ability to be found on Google. It also increases your company's ability to be found on Google. So the search engine optimization is huge. Anybody in here in sales? I love salespeople. Okay, lead generation, right? That's important. What happens if you're not having lead generation? See you later, alligator. Yeah, you're not going to be around for long. They have found that LinkedIn, out of all of the social media sites, 93% of people in sales say it does the best job of producing lead generation from a warm lead perspective. You don't want to do direct responses, it irritates people. But the warm lead, absolutely. Questions about that? How many of you are on LinkedIn? Cool. Okay, so those that aren't on LinkedIn, I would encourage you to consider it. I know, the nerve of some people. You got to wonder if my parents have any real children, don't you?
I was wondering why we're not all connections.
Oh, love that idea. Love that idea. Yeah, you guys should all be connections. Absolutely. Absolutely. Some other time, hopefully, I'll be able to hang out with you guys and we'll really talk about LinkedIn, because there are some really fascinating things, both from recruitment, but also from business development and from chamber perspectives. Super neat techniques and strategies. But I don't have time today. I don't even know how much time I got left. Where's my time card? I'm good? Okay. Well, maybe at the end, if you guys have questions about LinkedIn, I can throw in a few things. Rotational programs are becoming more and more common. So organizations that had, okay, if you're going to be coming in our organization as a associate manager, you're going to be here for 2 years, maybe 3, and then you're going to go to senior associate manager, and then you're going to go to manager, and then you're going to go to senior manager, but it's going to take you this amount of time to do each piece. Are people currently patient for that? Not so much. And what happens when the person's not patient? They leave. Yeah, organizations are having a really hard time keeping people to stay, to wait for that promotion, because remember, back in the day, that's what we did, is we earned those promotions. But what you can do that they like are rotational programs. Rotational programs allows you to still learn and try and get something, new content, but from different departments inside the organization. So maybe you go spend a couple of months in marketing, and then you go spend a couple of months in operations. It still allows that person to grow professionally, but get them to that next step. So organizations are starting to figure out ways that they can do rotational programs inside the organization to keep people engaged and keep them there. Any examples? Anybody have rotational programs? You have a rotational program?
Military.
Oh, yeah.
Do it all the time.
You're right, you do.
It's amazing how much those things add to what the military does.
Absolutely. Structure, right? You got to keep people, you got to recruit them, but then you really got to keep them.
Well, waiting for your time for promotion, the Air Force just cut time and grade out. So now the guy testing first time for promotion, the guy testing fifth time, have almost the same chance of making it.
So they've cut. Well, good. Well, shoo. Again, the sweat's coming off my forehead. Yeah, that's a good sign. Yeah, rotational programs are smart, and they're keeping people really engaged, and they like to learn. Okay, what happens with your phone? Okay, I can't keep up with my kids. It makes me sick. Jaden will scan through her, what is it? Instagram. And she'll scan and she'll look at this, and I'm like, aren't you getting sick? As that's making me sick. I can't watch it anymore. They're so quick at retaining information so fast. They're accustomed to it, okay? Millennials are accustomed to it. I'm not. I can't even play the video games without wanting to throw up. God, really feeling my age when I play it. And they're not hard games. They're like Mario Party Brothers. What's wrong with me? Don't say anything. I know what's wrong with me. I do. Okay, but the information, they can grab on information really quick. My son gets frustrated with me. He'll say, Mom, and he'll ask me a question, and I'm texting, and I'll say, hang on a minute. I finished my text. He's like, how come you can't text and talk at the same time? Because I'm not you. Take the pressure off of me, okay, kid? Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm sorry, I'm off topic. But anyway, the rotational program gives them that constant feed of information. Okay, there you go. That's rotational programs. Make a difference. Some of the things that the governor said really made me think. So my son, I love my son. My son's name's Jake. Jake is 16. Okay, so he's a sophomore in high school. He is very, very dedicated to basketball. That kid loves that game. I've never seen, I'll go, where's Jake today? Oh yeah, I just gotta look outside. He's bouncing the stupid basketball. He bounces the basketball over the house. Ba-bang, 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 ba-bang. The lights are flickering. I'm like, he's gotta be playing basketball in the house again. Loves basketball. He did everything his coaches told him to do on preseason. Everything. That kid was playing 4 hours of basketball a day. And he made really good improvements. He had a rough season because the head coach quit, literally during tryouts. And the coach that came in didn't like Jake. So I'm watching this game, and as a parent, we're protective, and I know how hard he's worked, and I feel for him, right? If I don't, I'm a heartless mother. And I'm watching him, and they're not playing him. And it's a varsity game. He's the only player who's sitting on the bench, hasn't gotten any time, and they're ahead by 40 points. I'm thinking to myself, being the mom, play my son. You guys are way ahead, even if you don't think he's all that good. Play him, for God's sake. Give him some time. It took the varsity players to start cheering Jake's name, and they all in the line. Last 3 minutes of the game, they start cheering, and then everybody starts catching on. And the people in the audience that are watching the game start catching on. And all of a sudden, 19 seconds left, they put him in. Now, I'm even more angry. Okay, I shouldn't be. I should be excited about the 19 seconds he got, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm watching him, and I'm like so pissed off. First thing Jake does, goes in, steals the ball. Like, you should have put him in sooner. I had to leave. I was so upset because I didn't want Jake to see me this upset, right? I should be excited he got the 19 seconds in a varsity game. I had to leave. I called my husband. I said, I got to go do the grocery shopping. I don't want to come home because I don't want to have Jake see me this way. I need to make this as easy as I can. It ain't going to be easy if Mama comes home. So I stayed. I went and I did the shopping. I came home. My son was still there. He waited for me, and he said, Mom, do you need a hug? And I said, yes, but if you give it, I'm going to cry. And you don't want me to cry. He's like, it's okay, Mom. So he gives me a hug, and then I burst out in tears and tell him my heart hurts for you. And he said, Mom, it builds character. Wow. My 16-year-old son is teaching Mama a lesson here, right? And I'm thinking, that inspires me. Because I think someday he's going to make the difference, because he won't allow the challenges and the barriers to overwhelm him and stop him from doing those things that he loves. He's got that drive. And I know that there are a lot of people in this room with that same drive. And the governor said it. You can't allow barriers and challenges to keep you from those things that you love and those things that you want to do. And he's right. Jake's right. It does build character. Okay, as a mom, you don't always want to have them build character, but he was right. Does that make sense? So if you incorporate some of these strategies and things we've talked about, and you empower people to really have a full talent development program inside the organizations, or at least teach them how, people will be easily recruited and more retained. And in the big scheme of things, that's better for the organization. Any questions? No questions at all? Did you like my bad jokes? Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for your time. Inside the folders, I hate doing trainings and not give you a walk away or a takeaway. So I just listed some of these different strategies so you don't have to remember all the photos. It's on a piece of paper. And then I also have some business cards around, so if you do think of a question later and you'd like to reach out, I told you I don't have many friends, so if you reach out, it makes me feel good. And please, please, please connect on LinkedIn and connect with each other. Okay, it's a very powerful, right here, this is a powerful network. You really should be capitalizing on it. How am I on time? Good. Any questions on LinkedIn? No? Okay. Well, thanks for letting me hang out with you this morning.